Hey everybody, I'm Michael.
And I'm Max.
And remember to go follow us on Instagram at OnlyAnniePod.
And on YouTube, the world's only Animorphs podcast. That way you can check out all of our live streams, like the one we did for Megamorphs.
Mm-hmm. You can also listen to this podcast on Spotify or iTunes or anywhere you find podcasts. So enjoy this episode. For episode covering Book 13, The Change. Max, you had some cleanup from last week, right?
Yeah, we kind of missed the fact that not only did we get the preview for this book, Book 13, The Change, we also got a preview for the Andalite Chronicles.
Coming soon.
Which we would have theoretically just covered in a live episode.
Okay, well, now you say that, but, oh yeah, because the back of Book 13 has the Andalite Chronicles teaser, but it says in your bookstore now.
Yeah.
So Andalite Chronicles comes between 12 and 13, which, like you said, Max, is why we've already done a live stream for
Exactly.
Podcast time travel, guys.
Yes, and perhaps in that live stream we might have already mentioned it, but in case we didn't, we also forgot to mention that in the back of Book 12, we finally got the reveal of our third You Got Morphed winner, Mr. Andre H., who was age 12 at the time. He said, "A jaguar, it's fast, slim, angelic, sleek, calm under danger, fierce and free." So yeah, he probably also won for similar alliterative properties.
Yeah, it seems to win those morphing contests, you just had to ask your teacher for a thesaurus.
Yes.
Because, there's not a lot to that. Imagine all of the entries they had to go through that were just it's fast.
I wonder if KA had to go through that themselves, or if there was a whole team from Scholastic that helped them with that.
I'm sure it was a Scholastic team, Although she is kind of hands-on, as we revealed during, whenever I guess it was during the Megamorphs episode where I showed you the letter that she wrote. She was hands-on to a certain extent, for sure. Mm-hmm. What do we got in 13 as far as the ads? There's the Andalite Chronicles, which very excited to read. We get obviously the preview for Book 14. Nothing else too crazy.
So yeah, at the back of this book, after the final episode, we get the preview for 14, which is very short, just like the preview for 13 in the previous one. Yeah. And we get more of the Andalite Chronicles, because remember, they originally released it in a 3-part breakdown.
That's right.
We got the first third of it, and before then, now we got the second third in between 13, I think.
Yeah, at this point in time in the Animorphs universe, there was only one part of the Andalite Chronicles which was released. Of course, they put them all together in a series later. You know what I haven't been doing, which I'm going to start doing, is reading the back summary. Mm-hmm. After the book, though, because I still like to go into these books as blind as possible,
right?
Not reading any summary, but afterwards I'm going to start reading the summary on the back. Of course, throughout the entire series, this part's always the same. I wonder if it's like that on the new books, the part on the back where it's like, we can't tell you who we are or where we live, it's too risky. I don't know if it is or not. Book 13.
Yes.
I've been looking forward to this book ever since the series started, and I started learning more, and we hear from Tobias in the background, but you're always looking forward to the next narration, and this is one of the most eventful, in terms of the rest of the series, this is probably the most impactful book so far, I think.
Yes.
Were you excited about this one?
I was super excited about this one, especially once we got through 12 and I started reading the preview for it. I was just like, oh, finally.
Yeah. Yeah, because it affects the rest of the series, and all this stuff happens here, and it's one of these...
It's a turning point in the timeline, you would say.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. As we find out, which Tobias is very involved in. But it's one of these Animorphs books that really takes the next level to the next level, like Book 26, which I refer to every once in a while. But this one really takes it out there,
I thought it was very poetic that his first book, all the way back at number 3, he was changing from human to bird, and now on his second time around, finally getting to see him again, he's getting to change back from bird to human.
Yeah.
And the depiction of one of the final scenes in the book
yes.
that also creates a definitive plot point for the rest of the series. The fact that he had to reacquire his own human DNA. That struck me as odd. I thought it was very weird that he didn't still have that DNA just as part of his, structure, build, repertoire, however you want to label it.
Well, as we find out the Elemist is playing their own game.
So,
And so all of this is part of a higher purpose, because of course in that last scene that you're talking about, which was very much burned into my brain for some reason as a kid, specifically the part about Tobias having blue alarm clock numbers, because I remember looking at mine being like, mine are red, I want blue alarm clock letters like Tobias. But apparently that puts the whole series in motion. It spurs the entire thing, because Hawk Tobias tells human Tobias, follow Jake to the construction site. Yes. And I seem to remember in book 1, Tobias being kind of almost here it is, I have to follow. Tobias is this conduit, this character representing the randomness of the earth, the turning point of the universe. And so I think that the reason that the Elemist had Tobias go see himself as a kid, as a human, is because he wanted to spur the whole battle against Yerks, which it kind of did. Because if Tobias hadn't been there at the construction site, then they would have known nothing about what was happening.
Absolutely.
Because Elfangor basically transferred the information to Tobias.
Yeah, which I think we're going to have found out a lot about that in the Andalite Chronicles as well.
Very dope.
But,
we'll get
podcast time travel.
Podcast time travel. So Andalite Chronicles comes after 12 then.
Yeah, at least the first installment. Okay. That's what's kind of confusing. I can't quite tell if they necessarily broke that up between, here's the first third, here's the second third, here's the final third between 12, 13, and 14. Because a lot of them at the very back reference the deluxe collectible edition that tells the story of what happened before the Animorphs got their power.
So early on in the book, this is, once again, the most dynamic change in a character I think we've seen so far. So Tobias is Hawk, and he sees the magazine ad, which makes him reflect on what he used to be.
Yes.
I think this is the coolest opening scene. I could see it in my head as a movie where Tobias is flying around the school and peeking in the window in the classrooms, and he describes what Jake is doing, which is kind of dozing off. Cassie's trying to wake him up, and then Marco's just fooling around, making the teacher laugh, and then Rachel's walking from room to room. It's how he kind of just checks in on everybody. And that scene where he's flying in the woods still before he gets to the school. Yeah. He's like, "Hey, Axeman." And Axe's like, "Hey, Tobias."
Checks in on.
Yeah, kind of checks in and then just flies off. It's so. Can't you see that? Yeah, his shorm. Can't you see that as being an intro to a movie scene?
I very well could. In fact, it would be great if somehow that was the opening scene for the Animorphs movie coming out. Probably wouldn't be. It would have to be something about the construction site, you would think, right? Or maybe even if they're going to include some amount of the Andalite Chronicles backstory in there. I don't know.
Here's my guess, and mark my words, somewhere around 8 minutes in the episode over Book 13 here on the World's Only Animorphs podcast, I think that the Andalite movie, the Animorphs movie will start with... they're not going to start right away with just the kids. There's going to be a little 1 minute foreshadow of the Blade ship in space coming out of the moon and a little bit of space battle, and then cut to the kids at the mall.
Yeah,
I think that's what it's going to be.
You think they'll show that little bit of just the dome ship going down?
Yes.
Maybe even a glimpse of Axe falling down in it, and then maybe a glimpse of Elfangor's fighter ship veering off from everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little bit of space battle.
I could dig that.
A little bit of foreshadowing, and then boom, it's Jake and Marco playing video games,
Yeah.
That's what I think.
And then, it would transition straight into them playing some kind of Space Invader video game. Yeah.
Yes, dude. Yeah, it goes to space. Yeah. So it goes from the space battle in space to the space battle on the arcade screen.
Now it makes me wonder if they're going to update it and have it be a more... or if they're going to period piece it.
That's a great question. See, because Stranger Things is big right now. Or, I don't know if it's big right now, but Stranger Things was a big hit.
It was for a minute.
Yeah, and they kind of did a period piece. So, and there's not really a lot of 90s nostalgia pieces right now. I think this is a good opportunity to get...
But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's very few and far between.
Our generation...
nostalgia is coming up in the sense of reprised old TV shows, Fuller House, stuff like that.
Friends is still huge, And then
Friends has made some kind of weird resurgence. I think it had to do with them being, weren't they being taken off of one of the networks, like Netflix or
something like that? Yeah, they went from one streaming service to another, but But yeah, I hope that they do like a 90s period piece with it and don't try to make it 2022 Animorphs, because there's too many problems there. Like, everyone has a cell phone camera now.
Right.
It was easier to get away with alien stuff back in the day, you know. But as far as this plot line goes, this very interesting book, Tobias and Rachel just get lost all of a sudden. They get turned around when they're in Birdmorph. Tobias wants to show Rachel,
surprisingly, yeah,
some of the Yerk pool entrances that he found, and it's like, Tobias, am I crazy, or are we right back where we came from? Tobias looks down at the ground. She was right. We were right back in the same area by the edge of the forest. I felt a cold chill. No way, I whispered. And so it's like they're flying around. That's on page 19. And they don't know why, but they're getting moved around. And then they see the Hork-Bajir in the woods, and they describe it as a huge hole opening up in the ground.
Just a tree suddenly shifting.
Yes.
Not moving, just
sliding. Yeah. On the ground. And then Hork-Bajir come out, and you're like, what the hell is this, man? Like, what's going on? Scream. Yep, and the alarm going, so they're getting chased. The controllers are going crazy with automatic rifles, handguns, shotguns, and the Yerks were going after the two Hork-Bajir.
All of a sudden, it's the chase through the Ewok forest.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It made me laugh on page 39 whenever they've kind of reconvened. Ooh, do they refer to the wildlife rehabilitation clinic / center in this? I don't see it. On 37, they say clinic again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go.
Tobias is a clinic dude.
My nitpicky thing about whether they say wildlife rehabilitation clinic or center. We're back to clinic. Yeah. Interesting. We'll have to wait till the next Marco book to see how they refer to you.
I really hope it does say center on 15.
Do you like how when Cassie threw a garden snake on Marco?
That was beautiful.
And he freaked out. That's good stuff. Good stuff.
And even he has to laugh at it. It's just like, I remember doing that with like rubber snakes and people like just about wetting themselves. It's like, I can't imagine doing it with an actual real life.
Dude, around Halloween,
real life snake.
My neighbor put a bigger than life-size tarantula replica like by my trash cans, and I was doing some yard work and like sweeping up some leaves. And dude, imagine sweeping up a bundle of leaves and then looking down and there's a gigantic tarantula thing. I was like, oh my God. I just kind of tossed it into their yard, and I was like, okay, very funny. I'm pretty sure they left it there for comedy's sake, because they had a bunch of Halloween decorations too. Yeah. So they got me pretty good on that.
God, yeah,
I haven't
jumped
said
about 10 feet back.
I just about did.
Be attached to the previous tree.
Right. Max,
like
how long you been up in that tree?
Yeah.
Yeah. I never mentioned it though. And so if I see them, I'm going to mention it, but I don't know. I always avoid my neighbors for some reason. I'm kind of antisocial, I guess.
Yeah, fair. Same.
So once they have Jara Hamee.
Jeremy?
Which is Jeremy. Funny. And then Jara Hamee's...
Jeremy's broken.
I like it. Good Pearl Jam reference. What is Jara Hamee's wife's name? Let's see.
Jara Hamee's broken.
Broken.
Ket.
Haplick.
Halpak.
Helpak. Yeah, that's right. That was right off the dome, guys. What do you think about the scene where Jara Hamee slices his head open to show them?
God, yeah, just stabs himself straight in the middle of the head.
Right?
Do you see a Yerk in there?
Yeah, check and see.
This is the most hardcore thing. Rachel's just like, respect.
But it's cool to see, or cool. I guess it's interesting how viscerally KA depicts that, so that Tobias and Axe are like really freaked out by it. Tobias says that his heart stops whenever he sees this Hork-Bajir slice into his own brain.
He had to restart it himself. This is what he felt like.
I think that on page 54, when they have Jara Hamee in the cave, and then they come up with the idea for Rachel to acquire him, I think Tobias was overly mean here. He was overly mean because he says to Jara Hamee, who they have determined is peaceful and, not going to fight them or anything, he says, okay, then turn around, Jara Hamee. I ordered the Hork-Bajir. Close your eyes and don't look till I tell you. If you open your eyes, this Haruth in here, this Andalite, will slice and dice you. You got it? Eyes closed. I'm like, bro, why are you talking to him that way?
Yeah, he just stabbed himself in the middle of the forehead
to prove something to you. Like, why are you being such a, kind of being a dick there?
I think it was just still trying to make sure that he held control of the situation enough to ensure the safety.
Maybe it was also like showing that Tobias is in control now. Well, we do find out.
Also, I think on page 60 we get the definitive that no, even if you do acquire a sentient creature, you don't get their thoughts and their
Max, that
memories.
is exactly what I was about to bring up. We are so on the same wavelength on this podcast.
On the same page.
Do you? Yeah, we're on the same page. Exactly. That's good stuff. We are overflowing with greatness on the world's only Animorphs podcast today. Yeah, that's what we find out. So presumably when Cassie morphs Rachel or Axe morphs Jake, then you get the instincts of that sentient creature, but you don't get specific memories from that sentient creature, which we find from Rachel being Jara Hamee, right?
Which makes me wonder even harder.
Max wonders harder.
How does Axe know English?
Yeah. I mean...
Or how to speak at all without ever having had a mouth before.
Yeah.
Is that part of the instinctual nature of a human, is to be able to talk?
Yeah, more so than
Hork-Bajir,
because Axe said that Hork-Bajir only have, 500 words?
Yeah.
And so maybe the human brain is more inclined towards...
Depending on the human, some only...
Yeah, depending on the human. That's exactly right.
We got some Hork-Bajir brains walking around out here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's definitely some human / Hork-Bajir hybrids.
Most of them lost the election.
What is this? What is this note that I made here? 71. I said bottom of page, pics of aliens.
Bottom of page 71,
pics of aliens. This is already. There is. Oh yeah. Okay.
It's whole photographs of who would have believed them.
Yeah, when Axe says that humans invent all sorts of things that are not true, I have seen photographs of aliens in human newspapers. Do most people believe them? So here's the thing, going off on a little bit of a tangent here. There are pictures, if you've seen the documentary called The Phenomenon, which now you have to pay a good amount for, like on Amazon or something like that. But the documentary The Phenomenon documents actual human photos of alien spacecraft. And so maybe Axe is referring to it there, but it's like, as Marco goes on to say when he's like, oh, those aren't real newspapers. No one with half a brain believes those supermarket tabloids. But the Air Forces and the Pentagon have come out and said there's actual footage of aliens, Just
unidentified flying objects.
What'd you say?
Unidentified flying objects.
Yes, exactly.
Not necessarily aliens per se. I don't think they explicitly, but...
My theory is that those are drones. The UFOs we see are actually drones from other planets. That's why they can move so much, so quickly and stuff.
Like the advanced version of our drones that we are starting to come up with now.
Yeah, think about if we keep developing those drones for like 100 years.
Helicopter-esque. They can move in 360.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy, man. Had you ever heard of taxon trackers? This is the first time.
No, yeah, it's crazy. All of a sudden, Tobias is getting a whole load of information that he shouldn't know plopped right into his head, which is one of his main cue points if he hasn't already figured it out, that it's obviously the Elemist.
Right.
And then he kind of eventually starts calling him out for it. He's like, all right, you know what? I'm done playing the game. I'm done being the pawn. Show yourself.
Elemist is there. And there's this great description of this psychedelic dimension where Tobias is, quote unquote, face to face with the Elemist. And he says there was light, a beautiful blue-green sort of light. It didn't come from any one place, though. It just seemed to be coming from everywhere at once. And then Elemist says, hello, Tobias.
And then we get the passage that was from the preview that we had in the previous book, where it gave the little one-page snippet. The voice was huge but not harsh. It filled my brain and seemed to resonate throughout my body. My feathers quivered. My fingers tingled. Fingers? And only then did I begin to realize that I was changed. I looked down at my body, and somehow, in a way I can't explain, I seemed to be seeing through my body too. It was as if I could see everything from every angle at once, like I was seeing myself through a million different eyes. I was no longer a red-tailed hawk, but I was not human either, at least not the way I had once been human.
And then I want to read something else from here. Then from the vague turquoise fog around me, I saw it flying toward me. It was a bird of prey, a raptor, some undefinable shape, part falcon, part eagle, part hawk. I mean, the picture that puts in your brain,
snow white belly, reddish brown back, and a tail that spread to show a dusky rainbow of colors.
So you just get this picture of like Tobias in the swirl of turquoise and blue and green with this crazy looking hybrid bird flying towards him, and he's half human and half bird. Nothing is real, nothing is fake. That's got it. It seems like that's based on a psychedelic experience. I'll say
existential crisis.
Yeah, something's going on there, But that's crazy. So the Ellimist kind of makes a promise, and he also says, and here's some huge foreshadowing that has an effect on the series. The Ellimist says, Tobias, you are a beginning. You are a point on which an entire timeline may turn.
Yes, very profound. That's not the word I'm trying to find, but profound will work for now.
Profound on the series, right? Like, there's a lot happening. The other
prophetic, I
there
think,
you go.
Is what I was going for.
Prophetic, I'll take that. I'll take that to the bank. And then we find out some history about Hork-Bajir, which we find more out about, of course, in the Hork-Bajir Chronicles.
Yes.
But here we find that they are vegetarians.
Mm-hmm.
They eat tree bark.
Yeah. And apparently they're not too fond of ours, but they'll eat it.
Yeah, they eat it. And that's what the blades are for. So that they're not naturally these killing machines, these walking lawnmowers, salad shooters, as Marco calls them.
Although I wonder.
Max wonders.
Whenever they were biologically predestined to war every so often.
It's like every 80 years, 60 years.
Yeah. Did they use those as their weapons, or did they create clubs and stuff out of the wood or spears or whatever?
We're gonna have to catch up on
weapons,
that.
or were they their own weapons?
They definitely could have been. I feel like they did a more peaceful run, probably like catapults and things like that, dropping coconuts from their tall trees.
Do you remember any of the names of their trees?
I don't. Hit me with it.
Find them on page 93. We've got Jara Hamee, eat from the canver, eat from the luhak, eat from the tall fit.
There you go. Yeah, and then he seems like he offends the humans when he's like, our trees are better than your trees.
Earth tree good.
I love these Hork-Bajir. They're very innocent. They're in love. Mm-hmm. They just want to. And we also find out that the Ellimists talk to Jara Hamee in the Yerkpool, and that's how they escape. So the Ellimist is really getting in here, getting his hands dirty.
Dipping his fingers in the pool, not quite jumping in, though. I think that's the way Tobias kind of put it, was he just wanted to dip his finger in and not fully commit.
So then it comes to a pivotal moment in the series. Tobias is being dragged towards a stream by a raccoon with a broken wing. Tobias has a broken wing. He's going to die. And then all of a sudden, the Ellimist comes in and says, you asked me for payment in exchange for using you. Would you like your reward now? And, of course, he gives Tobias, who is thinking the reward was going to be, I'm human again. Instead, the Ellimist gives him his morphing power back so that he can get out of this situation. So at this point in the book, Axe can morph, but not back to human form, right? And so he has conflicting feelings. Yeah, it's Tobias, sorry, not Axe. My brain almost works a lot of the time.
Yeah. We also, for a moment, I was trying to remember if that was when the bobcat swatted him down or how he had broken his wing. And no, that was the bobcat was a different scene when the Taxon ends up eating the bobcat for him to save him.
Yeah, the bobcat was a different scene. This is where Tobias was just flying through the trees, and I guess he hit his wing, and he heard a snap, and then fell on the ground.
No, the helicopter flew over him, and the gust of the wind from the helicopter knocked him sideways into a tree.
Reading comprehension. Tobias gets angry on page 138, almost hits a woman. when they're in Hork-Bajir morph, he's what does he say? He's like, I raised my hand. Where is it? Let's see. Rachel grabbed my shoulder. I almost spun around and slashed at her. My arm came up actually like I was going to strike. So he's like, this is
raging.
It seems like Tobias is always having some crazy, panic-stricken, suicidal thing like in the last book, or a super angry, issue like he has with this. But I mean, the guy's got a lot going on in his life.
Got a lot of issues to come to terms with. Yeah,
quite a bit.
Like discovering that what he truly wanted wasn't to necessarily be human, but just to be able to morph again.
Yeah.
We also found out on page 122/123 that absolutely morphing injury repair goes both ways. So that makes me wonder.
Max wonders.
I wonder why Elfangor wasn't able to morph out of his injury when he was dying.
So,
and if there's some amount of necessary energy that you have to have, because I remember him saying he was too weak to morph.
They saw blood.
Yeah.
That could be it. Okay. Interesting you say that because, I'm on the Animorphs subreddit, but I'm still at the point, kind of how I have been this entire podcast series, where I'm not deep diving into internet Animorph lore. Reason number one being people get snarky about stuff and kind of takes the wholesomeness away from it a little bit. That goes for every subreddit, every internet fan group of everything. Yeah, it always takes a snarky, sarcastic bend. But the other reason is I just want everything to be fresh. So I saw something the other day about like Elfangor didn't morph out whenever he was going to be killed, by Visser 3, or he didn't morph into something. And I have a feeling we're going to find out that there's a reason he didn't. Yeah. I think it's one of these overarching Ellimist things.
Yes.
But we'll see. But it's interesting you bring that up.
I think we got to get through our time travel and the entirety of the Andalite Chronicles to find out a lot of that information.
Yeah, we probably found out a lot when we read Andalite Chronicles. So Tobias gets to use some of that anger in Hork-Bajir form. He's on automatic. He's a slashing, ripping, tearing machine, as I say on page 143. And dude, I was thrilled. I'm sitting here like I was watching a sports game whenever Tobias just runs straight at Visser 3. Visser 3 dodges out of the way, and Tobias and Jara Hamee morph, plunges over the ravine. Marco reaches out in gorilla morph and just grabs him and pulls him to safety.
Stops him, like full stop.
Yeah.
And then jerks him back up.
Which is incredible.
That's insane. He already did that with Rachel.
Yeah. How perfect did they have to hit the ravine just at that one spot? You couldn't go anywhere else. It had to be that one spot. And Tobias is getting frustrated with Jake, who is doing the aerial.
I wonder how Marco got down there in gorilla morph, because he was already in gorilla morph lumbering away.
He could have been in bird morph and just flew there and then morphed out. In fact, he probably would have had to, because he was hiding from the,
then it makes me wonder, why did he just go ahead and start in... Why didn't he just go ahead and start in bird morph and fly to his end point? Why did he start out as a gorilla? Or maybe he was expecting a fight along the way, or I don't know.
They were really coming at it. They were getting
bombarded. Yeah.
In one scene.
From all angles, just about.
Yeah, right around this part of the book. He's like, there's Taxons to our left, there's Hork-Bajir to our right.
There's fire encircling them, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a 100-foot drop right in front of us. So that's what happens. The ravine plan works. The brutal part about how they were in wolf morph, literally tearing at the flesh of the Hork-Bajir, which was just healing automatically.
Yeah, it's like Wolverine style. Hork-Bajir have this incredible healing capacity. Also, I liked the little role reversal that Jake and Tobias had there, where now Jake is having to play lookout as a peregrine falcon and kind of sucking at it, and Tobias is getting frustrated with him and like barking orders at him, like, just tell me.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jake is like, it looks like a map up here. I can't tell what anything is.
Tobias is beyond frustrated pretty much this entire book.
He really is. He's got a lot on his plate, regularly and otherworldly stuff. It's cool when Jake comes down and Peregrine Falcon morph and they dive at like 200 miles an hour.
Yeah,
and he snatches the Hork-Bajir. Mm-hmm. I like the nice, wholesome sex jokes that we have on page 153, where
Marco's always the horny one, I've noticed.
He really is. Marco's the horny one. He says, well, let's just take our clothes off. Marco said briskly, you know the rules. In the Garden of Eden, you can't wear clothes. Rachel, you can start. And then he's asking the Hork-Bajir about the differences between...
how do you tell?
Yeah.
2 blades? 3 blades.
Ket Haplick says, other difference too, but only for Hork-Bajir to know.
Yeah.
So it's like
even Axe laughed.
But then the beautiful scene, man, that we get into, which is basically...
They emerge in the Green Valley, if you ever watched Land Before Time.
Oh, yeah, of course. Now, where does this scene come in? Let's see. Yeah, so it's basically all of chapter 26, just about. Starting on page 157, my favorite scene in the entire...
the cover
series so far. Yeah, it's the cover. Here's a series. It was at night, but I could see blue numbers glowing from an alarm clock. For some reason, that sentence just like struck me in my head. It gives you such a visual.
Yeah.
You know, and like, of course, you can. It's probably from looking at that inside cover and actually seeing the room and seeing the scene that you're about to read, and that's where Tobias says, Tobias, walk home with Jake. Walk through the construction site. Right?
Sets the whole series in motion
Yes.
right there.
Yes.
Retroactively.
Yes. And
Almost
Tobias,
like a memento moment.
Yeah. So Tobias acquires his own former human form and then gets a message from the Ellimist that says, don't forget, 2 hours, Tobias. And he says, have I kept my promise? Yes, I said. And Ellimist says, are you happy, Tobias?
No answer.
No answer.
No answer.
So cool. And then the last scene with Rachel getting her award. What was the award?
The
Packard
Foundation Outstanding Student Award. PFOSA.
Awesome how this book ends, dude. When Rachel sees him and she stops walking, she turned to me, her eyes were wide. Hi, Rachel, I said with a human voice. And that's the
I
end
almost
of book
teared
13.
up at that last sentence. She turned to me, her eyes wide. Hi, Rachel, I said with a human voice.
Me too, man.
Because you know the feeling, you could almost feel the way that she felt of seeing Tobias and like
it's him
doubling back to be like, oh my God.
And just that he's there.
They're really driving home this dirty aspect of his blonde hair, though.
Yeah. Because they refer to it, they say dirty blonde, right? Like,
yeah.
But whereas the book model, I mean, come on, that's dark hair.
This model looks more illustrated, animated than any of the previous models, in my opinion. Maybe it's because of the way he's edited into this photo.
Doesn't it look like? Do you like how he has a 5 o'clock shadow at like age 9 or at age 11? Doesn't it look like?
I like how there's a picture of Dude the cat on the bookshelf in the back.
That's an Easter egg. Yeah, I see that, dude. What is that to the right of the cat picture? Is that a book of some sort?
That's what I was trying to figure out last night when I was looking at it. But
maybe a comic book.
Christmas tree lights.
Maybe it's like a family photo.
I think it's a book, and I'll bet you it's probably one of KA's favorites. It looks almost like there's a ship on the ocean on the cover, is what it kind of looks like to me.
Maybe it's like, because I know she's a Lord of the Rings Hobbit fan. Maybe it's something related to that.
Could be. I'm also trying to figure out what the initials are on that cap.
Did she even have input in the books?
Oh, into the
covers.
The covers. Yeah, that might have been all. Let's see who did it this time. Was it David again? Yeah, David B. Mattingly. Cover illustration.
Mattingly.
This one was for Michael alone.
I love it, man. Book 13.
I think it's great that there was a full moon that night. Of course, there had to be a full. It couldn't be like a waxing or a waning crescent at that point.
Of course not.
You said you wanted to read the synopsis at the back.
I just on my own. I mean, we don't have to read it on here. Let's see. Are there any spoilers in here, though? On the back summary, Tobias has pretty much gotten used to his life. Red-tailed hawk with the mind of a kid. Yeah, there's no spoilers there. Now Tobias is about to make a very special choice, a choice that the other Animorphs and Axe know nothing about. And it could mean the difference between being a hawk and being human.
Yeah.
I think this is my favorite book in the series so far, Max.
So far? I think
looking
you say
forward
that
to
just
it.
about every episode, but
I guess so. But this one for real, just because it has such implications.
No, yeah.
Tobias can morph now. He can acquire an animal and morph.
I love how they all just kind of like stare at him blankly for 30
He's like, "I'll do
seconds
it."
before Rachel's like, wait, what?
So here's a question. So he can acquire animals with his talons. Why not his wings? Because those are kind of like hands.
Maybe because maybe if he can get like some of the bone structure or some direct skin contact, maybe it's the fact that it's his feathers. It's kind of like hair or something like you probably couldn't acquire through just the touch of your hair.
That makes sense. But I thought that was funny.
Dead skin cells.
You know, like those memes where it's like, if a dog wore pants, would it look like this or this? It's kind of like the same thing.
You also get some more about the Andalite Chronicles on the very back of the book itself. You think you know the Animorphs, but you know nothing until you know my story. I am Elfangor. I am an Andalite prince, and I am about to die. Listen very closely. What I have to say could mean life or death. Yeah.
A deluxe collectible edition that tells the story of what happened before the Animorphs got their power in your bookstore now.
And 3. That makes
that
me
mean?
think that they've got all 3 of them combined there by now.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. I love this. Let's wrap it up, Max. Any other last thoughts for book 13?
I think I had one wonder.
One more
Yes.
wonder.
I wonder if Tobias chose to Nothlit himself again now as a human. This is a multi-wonder. Could he... The first wonder is, could he reacquire the power to morph from the cube if they were to ever run across it again?
So if he stays in human morph for 2 hours... See, I'm going to say no because he would be a Nothlit again. But he would be a Nothlit.
You think that
in
being a
human form.
Nothlit necessarily negates the ability to reacquire the morphing technology?
I think so because Axe never mentioned that as a solution. He never said, well, I know we can't do it, but if you found the morphing cube, we could do that. So that's just a guess. But I feel like
he was also pretty adamant at that point. The last time he was actually any amount of referring to that, he was still kind of before he had fully accepted Tobias as a Shorm, and he hadn't really come out with any information to the Animorphs yet.
Yeah. I'm thinking forward to the next Tobias book, and I feel like we get even more revelations.
I'm trying to remember if our cover artist's doppelganger in the book is what I'm going to call him, makes his appearance by then.
Our cover artist doppelganger?
Yeah. I'm just going to call him that since they share the same first name.
David B. Mattingly?
Yeah.
I think we may have to come on here and do a what do you call it?
What do you call it?
A thing we recorded at the beginning, a disclaimer at the beginning
Disclaimer.
that says at this point we hadn't read Andalite Chronicles because I'm pretty sure Andalite Chronicles
Deals
ends
with
with
a
some
lot of-
Tobias stuff.
Yes.
So
I'm sure you are correct.
Yeah.
Oh, if he were to Nothlit himself as a human again, would his human body now start aging again? Because I think we find out, if not already from Andalite Chronicles, then potential spoiler alert later on in the series that because he reacquired himself at that point in his life, he's stuck that age rest of his life.
do we find that out?
We find out that morphing, the morph itself does not change age. It stays right where it's at.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because every time Rachel morphs to that bear, it's the same bear.
Mm-hmm. Same age.
We're going to have to see where this goes. Like I said, this sets up everything. Like the Elemist said, Tobias is a basically a hinging turning point. He is the beginning of something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're at in book 13. Things are really heating up. We have some nice Animorphs like mold growing on us now in a good way, meaning we're right in the thick of it. You know what I mean? This is great. Remember to go and subscribe to our YouTube page, The World's Only Animorphs Podcast, and also Instagram, Only Anipod. Give us a follow, won't you?
Please like, subscribe, follow, share, do all of them. Notificate your bells.
Yes. Notificate your bells. Absolutely. And we'll be back with you guys next week. Thank you so much for checking it out. And as always, I'm Michael.
I'm Max.
Together, we fight.